All right, this is If My People Bible Reading Part 151. We are in the book of First Kings, and we will probably finish it. We're going to have a PowerPoint that comes after this. This I'm dedicating this one. This is my first dedication. This is 151. I'm dedicating it to my brother who passed away July the 10th of an illness that moved rather quick through his brain and took him quickly. But he went very peacefully, by the way. But it's it's hard to imagine a world without him. Um, and I also am dedicating this to Mary Jo and Marty Japelski because they you meet only so many people in this world, and you find their hearts are rather unique. He's a very both of them are rather entertaining people. One of them is a jokester, and the other is the intellectual. I'll let you figure out which one's which. um, and when they go out with you, Marty always brings his coupons, so it's always nice to have coupons when you go out to eat with them. So, so all right, this has been all these audios that I've sent out and people that before the videos on YouTube. I got a bunch of questions on this, and they have a real confusion about the temple and so forth. So we're going to go what's called a Marty Chapelsky Brad Scott explanation of the world. And I got a little drawing I put in the background that's going to kind of come into play here. So we'll first finish up with First Kings and when chapter 9, when Solomon had finished the temple of Yahweh in the royal palace and achieved all things he desired, we mentioned this in 150. Yahweh appeared to him a second time as he appeared to him in Gibeon. And he says over and over again, 50, 60, 70 times in the Bible, hear and obey, hear and obey, hear and obey me. Call upon my name. And this is my son, whom I well pleased. If you follow those Torah commands, life can go so well. But it didn't go that well for Solomon. Even before you finish chapter 9 here, you'll see that Solomon not only finished his temple, but he built his royal palace. And it uses words in there such as it was done by forced labor. Isn't that just a wonderful thing to do, to build Yahweh's house with forced labor? And his all of the other things, I mean, the things that Solomon built on the backs of people, amazing. It's just stunningly amazing. So it kind of gives you pause about the wisdom of Solomon. He may have been very wise, but he made some extremely foolish decisions. So as we're going through Kings, it goes from Jerusalem, it goes to Judah, it goes to the northern tribes, it goes back to Judah, it goes back to the northern tribes, it goes back to Judah, it goes back and forth. First and Second Kings does that, and at the end of Second Kings, there's um, there's nothing left. Their kingdom's a wreck. So this is what you get when you leave Yahweh out of everything. So some of the explanations of this beautiful, beautiful temple that Yahweh was built for Yahweh, and Yahweh did dwell in it. He did that. Doesn't mean he wanted to. It just means that the people wanted to, Solomon wanted to, and David had this vision, and David wanted to do certain things. So Yahweh just, okay, we'll do it. We'll see how it works out for you. It didn't work out for long. He didn't stay long. Within a number of years, when both sides, both the northern and the southern kingdoms, were split to pieces, Yahweh's Shekinah glory left. And the closest it ever came back to returning is when Yeshua was walking in the temple grounds, and yet no one in the temple knew him. No one. And barely did his family recognize him. If you pay attention through the Gospels, his own family, he couldn't say much about because they didn't think much of him other than just do what he says, you know. But even his mother had some real issues with him being the son of Yahweh. and his half brothers and sisters. Later on, different story. Later on, but at the time that he was walking around the temple, and the two times, not once, got to read carefully, the two times he was in the temple, that he overturned the tables, and the two times that he came into Jerusalem, once on a foal and a donkey, and the other one's on a donkey. Two times. It just makes you wonder, and that you really got to read the word carefully, and don't get lost in certain things, such as listening to people who are college educated in theological stuff about how to run a church and make money, but it has nothing to do about reading the word of Yahweh. So let's get into this PowerPoint. Okay, let's go to the slideshow, and we'll start from the beginning. Now, this is what this is the Garden of Eden. This the little drawing that came up here. This is the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve are walking around. They don't have to worry about anything, including clothes, and they have to obey a few commands. They have to remember: don't eat from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and be fruitful and multiply. That's about it. There's the Garden of Eden. This is what Yahweh always wanted: paradise on earth, heaven on earth. That's what he wanted. It didn't last long. So he ended up during the Exodus, and he decided that it would look something like this. So in the background, like in this background here, would be a tower of fire during the night, and a tower of smoke during the day to protect them from any entrances coming into the camp, surrounded by the tribes. And Yahweh was happy being in this tent. He never asked to leave it. He never asked for anything more. And all the procedures to go through, which is really the figurehead and the explanation of Yeshua, when you look at all the instruments and all the tools going into ending up in the Holy of Holies. But that didn't last long. I guess you're not supposed to pay attention to this power. Looks like there's a power unit here that lights up at night. So we ended up with Solomon's temple. And this is what Solomon wanted to do. This is the vision that David had, but he wasn't allowed to do it. So his son did and built this. And representing, interesting here, animal figures. This is something that Solomon came up with. Rather interesting as far as the watering, the washing of the sins away, so forth. And this is the altar up here and so forth, and then going into the Holy of Holies. A magnificent temple. And this is what Yahweh put up with, not what he asked for. And then, of course, that was destroyed, and then Hezekiah's temple, Nehemiah came back, and they built another one. And it wasn't quite as fancy, and it wasn't the instructions that Ezekiel was given, specifically 20, 30, 40 years before the Babylonian return. How interesting that they totally ignored Ezekiel and his 13 scrolls. Instead, they built this thing, which they were never happy with. And so, in Ezekiel's temple site, when you take a look at the actual size of the temple area, and it would actually be, here's Jerusalem, and if you pay attention to the person who did this did not pay attention to Ezekiel's temple Bible reading. It is actually, this here would be here, where Jerusalem is. So just, it would be located about right here. Because when you look at the oblation and the sanctuary area, the temple site and oblation area would be this big. It would be gigantic. It would be gigantic, going all the way. Oh my goodness! It would go all the way up to here, to here, to here, to here. So the Ezekiel temple would never ever on the face of this earth fit in Jerusalem, much less at the old supposed temple site that is today. No way, no how. So this would be the temple site of Ezekiel's drawing, size and so forth. The current site of the Temple Mount is about like this. So it wouldn't fit. Not only that, the oblation would go another 20 and 30 miles in each direction, and north and south. Doesn't fit. Doesn't fit at all, does it? Now, this would fit if this would be 12 and a half miles north. 12 and a half miles north of Jerusalem towards Beth El, which happens to be House of Yah. Beth El. That would be the temple site plus the oblation around it. So once again, doesn't fit. This being just a drawing, here is the city of David. This is the Ophel area. And this is where everyone keeps saying in the thousands and thousands of drawings in the internet that you can look up. Everybody looks at the size of the this mounting area where the Dome of the Rock is, and they try to make the temple fit there. It doesn't fit. None of them fit, as a matter of fact. This is where the Roman soldiers stayed. Where would 20 to 30,000 Roman soldiers stay? Let's look around here. Would they stay here in this hotel? Would they stay over here at Motel 6? They would need at least 10,000 just to fit this area. So the temple site is actually where there's a highway today. Didn't it say in the word that even the ground would be plowed under? The only area plowed under today, still standing, that has been dug up anywhere is right here. There's a 4-lane highway that goes around the temple site area. Actually, the temple site is under the highway. But that's another time and another story. This is what heaven is. This is how Brad explains a little child to understand a happy home would be a nice home. Everybody's got a smile on their face. Even the sun does. There's a tree, there's a hill, there's a place to play. There's a little stream going through. And this is what a child draws. So the little child can really show the adults what heaven is all about. It takes us back to the Garden of Eden. But it actually takes us back to the final heaven where there will be a home for all of us. It's like a royal palace, but probably doesn't have any smoke coming out of it. But this is the Brad Scott Classic. I hope you enjoyed that part there. Okay, got 3 minutes to comment. That last drawing, that's the final heaven. Now, that's not the millennial. That's not the millennial heaven. The millennial heaven is an iron scepter rule. It's not something to look forward to if you are a non-believer. Will there be non-believers in the millennium? Oh, yeah. As we've talked to before, there's going to be the 144,000, as we just read in 1 Kings. Solomon consecrated 142,000 animals. Now, there won't be animal sacrifice with blood, guts, and gore, because Yeshua was the last of the blood, guts, and gore. There will be animals and food and offerings and grain and free will and accidental sin offerings, all these things in the millennial. That will continue on, but that's so that the Levites can eat, because that's the part of they get the oblation area, they get the land to live in. They don't have to work a particular job during the millennium because they're taking care of the temple. They're not the temple priest of us. They don't get that privilege. Remember the little problem that occurred? But they get to serve Yahweh. They get to serve Abba Father. And the shepherds that are part of the bride of Yeshua, and those who were beheaded. And now then when you add that up, because they're not showing the ones that were beheaded, that's 142,000 plus 2,000 more, there's 144,000. And then, of course, in Revelation, that's later on, there's a sea of people that's innumerable. That is the guests at the wedding. That is the guest, and that doesn't count the ones on the outside of the walls who are seething at the bit because of the hate they have him. They're all going to have their home one day somewhere else. But this heaven that we're coming back to is the Brad Scott Classic. That's what we're looking forward to. All right. Take care. Hope you enjoyed it. See you at 152.